This one mindset shift pulled me out of the worst week of my life. Good day to you all, and welcome to Bad Day Excellence, the podcast where we turn those tough days into opportunities for growth. I'm Brian Walsh, an optimist with over a decade of experience in marketing, leadership, and personal transformation. In that time, I have lost 100 pounds, run a marathon, wrote a book, and worked with some of the most inspiring people I have ever met. I'm here to help you create clarity from the chaos, guiding you through habit formation week by week. Together, we'll create clarity in your life, career, and beyond. Ready to turn a bad day into your next breakthrough? Let's get started. COVID hit everyone really hard. People were isolated and they were scared about what could happen if they caught this invisible monster. Some companies were prepared with a remote work option. Others were left asking, what do I do now? How do I service my customers? How do I even have the employees to service those customers? My company at the time was the exception. We already had remote capability. Yes, that was roughly about 2 days a week, but now we're fully remote. The work kept flowing in and we dug in deep. In fact, we were operating at about 125% productivity. And the big question was, but for how long? I want to fast forward about 6 months past the this is only going to be 2 weeks moment. My wife worked at a school that was not set up for this situation. They did not have the technology to work remote, so she had to go in. Luckily, she worked in an office that was very small, but everyone wore masks as well. I was a full-time employee while also being a part-time teacher. I had a 5-year-old son who was actually working remote with school. And so try to tell a 5-year-old kindergartner to sit on an iPad and not squiggle lines or play games is virtually impossible. But luckily, he was a hybrid environment. So some days he was in, sometimes he wasn't. So I was playing teacher and full-time lead software developer while working at like 125% productivity. It was hard. So hard that I actually ended up in the closet crying, asking my wife to hold me. It was a dark day. I'll never forget that moment. And I'm feeling it now. I felt hopeless and helpless. And it crushed me. And by the way, it was only Monday. This was one of many moments in my life where I asked the universe, why and then what must I learn from this? It was time to rely on my systems and push through in order to grow. First of all, I truly believe that it is important to seek help. This is a very important message. You need to seek help and not go at it alone. If you are in a deep depression, you need to find someone, professional or personal, who will listen and be there. Locking arm to arm in order to walk this path, because it is a deep, dark pit that it is almost impossible to get out of alone. So as a result of our collective experience during COVID, we now have so many ways to connect with mental health professionals. There is no reason you can't get the help you need. For me, it was my wife and a lot of internal reflection and acceptance. I still battle depression occasionally, and I never really truly did until COVID. So it's really interesting to navigate these thoughts throughout my head. So I want to walk you through what actually got me through so that I can give you the tools needed when life feels heavy. Let's start with the overall mentality. When everything feels dark and feels heavy around you, it's time to celebrate the journey and foster a gratitude mindset. I used and still use the 5 4 3 2 1 grounding exercise in the moment to remind myself that I have 5 things that I can see that I have worked hard to get. Then there are 4 things that I can touch, which would include my wife's hug. 3 things I could hear. I could hear the dogs barking. I could hear my son giggling. There are 2 things that I could smell. We're not going to get into that, because, you know, yeah. Anyway, we were in a closet. So, and 1 thing I could taste. And again, what this does is takes you out of your brain and brings you into the physical world and works out and back in. This shifts your mindset and starts to engage that system 2 thinking that I lovingly call deep, and then begins to just kind of navigate this one by one and eases a lot of the tension. 1 thing that I want to press upon you is the fact that the weight that you feel in those moments is not your reality. In fact, the weight that you feel is an average of just 3 pounds. How do I know this, you ask? Because this is the average weight of the human brain, just 3 pounds. We've been carrying it all of our lives. And, well, maybe not all of our lives. The very beginning, mom, dad kind of had to help us a little bit. But that wrinkly, mushy mass in your skull is absolutely amazing at making you feel so much more than it really is. So when we feel the trigger of being down, overworked, or stuck, we need to kick off our tap cycle to remind ourselves of what we have and how we got there. Use the grounding techniques like I shared, journal, or have an open discussion with a professional or someone close. The prize is a removal of all the weight that 3-pound mass created. Another reminder is that when you ask yourself, why am I stressed? And the answer is something else that is out of our control. It is time to remember the teachings of the Stoics about the dichotomy of control. You can only control yourself and your immediate environment. I couldn't control COVID, whether it was the spread or how it reacted in people's bodies. I couldn't tell the world to drop everything and only focus on this problem. It all was out of my control, and I shouldn't let that lead me down this path of darkness. So don't spend any extra energy worrying about things that are out of your control. It is what it is. Focus on yourself. I want to take a minute to practice this with you. In a second, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and think of the last time you had a tiny win. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I finally put away all of my clothes. This includes the clothes from my vacation 2 weeks ago, right? Like it was in a suitcase sitting on the floor for a week. So there's a tiny win. I put all the clothes away, right? But if I talk about this, let's talk it out loud, right? One of the most amazing parts of this is that there's gratitude in here. Again, there is so much more to this moment than you may believe. At that moment, I was reminded that I went on vacation. I was reminded that I have a roof over my head and a closet to put these clothes in. Hey, I'm also reminded that I have clean clothes that I wasn't wearing, that were ready and raring to go when I needed them. All were proof that life was good, and it still is good. So for the next 20 seconds, I want you to think about one tiny win. Look at the indicators that you're doing okay. Ready, set, go. I hope you found something to celebrate and appreciate. Again, if you're having trouble finding light in the darkness, please, please seek help. And if you really are just overwhelmed, reach out to me and we'll walk that path together. We'll find you the help you need. Well, that concludes this week's episode. I want you to bookmark this episode for the days where it seems a little dark, your next bad day. And for this week's challenge, I want you to find an accountability buddy. Someone you can text when you're feeling down, like this, and establish some sort of scale on how you are feeling. Maybe it's a heavy meter from 1 to 10, and whenever it's about 5, they'll call you. If you've enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button and please leave a review. If you are feeling feisty, maybe leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Ratings, comments, and shares are all forms of showing love, not just to me, but to others. Because together, we can spread our good vibes to people on their bad days. I'm Brian Walsh, your guide to habit crafting and your biggest champion. Thanks for tuning in to Bad Day Excellence. See you next time.